G'day guys, Mike with the Outer Circle, and today, in getting started in the Horus Heresy, we are looking at the Salamanders Legion. So for those who may have caught my own work on the Salamanders so far, I've laid out a long comprehensive list of what I'm going to do with my personal force, but not everyone has the inclination or the resources or, say, 3D printer, for example, like I do. And so they're not going to be doing that. They're going to be going to Games Workshop and they're going to be buying what they can off the shelf, or they're going to be going to third-party bits traders for things that they may need. With that in mind, we've tailored the episode to that. So this is otherwise a pretty simple episode. We're going to take the box set here, 40 Tactical Marines, 2 Praetors, Contemptor Dreadnought, Spartan, and 10 Cataphractii Terminators. We're going to tweak it a little bit with some parts that are available to you directly from Games Workshop and Forge World. To start with, the Liber Astartes Loyalist Legions Army Book. This is going to have all the rules you need for the Salamanders, whether you play Loyalist or Trader. Trader Salamanders pretty much aren't a thing, so not saying they can't happen, but they're too nice. They're just too nice. So don't tarnish their name. Their good reputation, guys. Now, decals. They have a pretty good decal sheet, it seems. Lots of symbols, lots of repetitions of the same symbol, so you can kit out whole units to have the same iconography. This is great, it's welcome, and it's rare. There are quite a few legions who don't have that ability, so this is a nice change. Now, when it comes to upgrading the models in the basic box, the first place to start is actually Primaris upgrades and transfers. I know, it burns, but that was not meant to be ironic, but it kind of is. So, the braziers. I would say the 2 flaming braziers would work really, really well on the 2 character models that we have in here. This guy and this guy. It will help both of them to look a lot more salamander having that backpack symbol instead of the, well, very 40k, we'll say, looking symbols that they have here. So, that's the first thing. Second is, hand flamers and such are pretty cool. You may be able to utilize them on different squad sergeants. But it's all the little griblies, the little hammers and claws and stuff. You can cut them off the Primaris Aggressor shoulder pads, for example, and attach those parts onto the belt buckles and such, or the smith's tongs. It's just little things like that help to sell them as salamanders. The bear heads as well, the bear helmeted heads, I think you get away with those, especially on the characters, as not being particularly 40k looking at all, in fact. I think they are perfectly fine for salamanders. So, yeah, good way to kit out the characters. Now, the next thing is going to be Saurus Warriors. And, as usual, it doesn't mean you go out and you buy Saurus Warriors, but you can get things like Saurus Warrior shields relatively easily. The bits market is huge for this sort of thing. Get the shields. File off any, like, say, spikes, for example. Several of these shields you'll see have big spikes going down one side. Just file them away or cut them away neatly with a knife, sand it back, so that there's a nice flat little rim around the edge of the shield. Get rid of the little golden tags hanging off the shield, so it's just a scaled shield. These will make excellent combat shields for your force, whether you use them on assault marines, characters, whoever it may be, or even use them as dragon scale storm shields for your characters, because it is an upgraded war gear item that you can take throughout the army, using the skin of the fire drakes that are renowned on the planet Nocturne, where they originate from. Another thing you can look at is the start collecting Anvil Guard. Anything in this box will be helpful, but specifically the Corsairs and to a lesser degree the Hydra. So the Corsairs is probably where we should start. Their cloaks, the Sea Dragon cloaks, make excellent drakeskin cloaks for the Salamanders. You can either take a press mold of them, or you can cut the cloaks themselves off of the miniatures and place them onto your guys. I did it on a test model chaplain, for instance. I cut a small piece of the cloak off and attached it as a loincloth on the chaplain as a bit of a test of concept. And I'm going to sculpt a lot more of them, but again, not everyone has, say, the ability to, or the time, or the resources. So, out of the box, you could use some of these parts. And you could even use them, with a fair bit of work, as cloaks to go underneath the backpacks of certain miniatures. It would not be easy, but it can be done, and I have done that too. The Hydra part of it, or the Charybdis, depending which you model it as. The scales on this are very large, and that means you can take a whole range of different pressings. You can press mold off it in order to create shields or cloaks or any of that kind of thing for your army. It gives you a big varying range of patterns that you can pull from. And it doesn't need to be this miniature. It could be dragons, it could be anything. You want one that has a lot of texture, a lot of detail to it though, and you don't want one where the scales are too big. And towards the back, the dorsal features of this, the scales get huge, but especially around the armpit on it and where the shoulder joins into the neck, those sort of areas are rich spots. The sides of the head, lots of scales, lots of detail. That's the sort of stuff you want to be press molding because it molds very nicely. And you could just borrow a friend's one that's built, not painted, preferably, before you go pressing into the molds with it. Now, when it comes to Forge World, there's only 3 things I really look at. And one is obviously the heads or helmet upgrades. These are excellent just as a way to add character to the force and show that Salamanders artifice everything, they make the armor their own. The next 2 things, one is Fire Drakes, and not necessarily to be used as Fire Drakes. I just think they're a beautiful basis for characters, especially if you want to have a Cataphracti Praetor, for instance, to lead your Cataphracti Terminators into battle. They also have Dragon Scale Storm Shields, which is a great way to get those into the force. And of course, they're just gorgeous. If you get a full set of 5, like with several other forces, like say the Emperor's Children, their Phoenix Terminators, or the Inner Circle Knight Cenobium, they're such detailed and rich models that they make excellent HQs in their own right. And they are actually pretty convertible because most of the dragon scale you see goes down to the elbow, so you can cut off everything below that. It's not too hard to put a power fist onto them or to change the weapons out to something else. And the last one, of course, is the Pyroclasts. So, for a start, they just look awesome. As Pyroclasts as a unit, you can utilize them, but again, I suggest looking at them as characters. There are a lot of interesting parts on these models, and whilst the scale on them is a little bit off these days compared to the newer stuff, very easy to add a little bit of extra mass underneath the feet, almost like high heels, just to lift them up a little bit to help with the height issue. And the weapons are so artifice on them. The cool looking Pyroclast flamethrowers, they look really neat on squad sergeants. I 3D printed a host of them for my own squad sergeants because I want to use them to count as combi flamers on squad sergeants. But not everyone will have the ability to do that. Again, they probably don't own resin 3D printers. I'm lucky in that regard, but if they wanted to, if they had the resources, they could do it this way. Or use them as Pyroclasts, and if you don't feel like running Pyroclasts on that day, they could be Legion Tactical Support Squad with Flamers, or they could be a Legion Heavy Support Squad with Heavy Flamers. The choice is yours as what you run them as long as it's consistent across the army, and your opponent knows exactly what they are so there's no confusion, because games shouldn't be left in a situation where the opponent walks away going, you know what, I didn't know what the hell that was against me the whole time. He said they were one thing, but then another squad that looked the same as them was something else, and I was really confused, and I did not enjoy that. That's not what you want. So just be careful. Anyway, that's it. That's Salamanders. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all on the Raven Guard video.